All right, we are back for another edition of the Astro Weather. It is 7:22, and we are in the last day of Cancer, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not mistaken. Every now and then, these 22 days tilt over into the next sign. It's usually during a leap year, but here we are. And yes, for those of you who noticed the thumbnail, it was our strange Cancer friends saying goodbye until next year, where we summon them again, and they become part of our life for a 30-day cycle. Anyway, let's see who we got this morning. Um, all right, all right, all right, all right. We got Michael Cisternino. The new next. The Fantastic Four-Claw here to save our lonely garlic butter with their massive pinchers. That's right. That's right. That's what they're here to do. Barbara Boots. Interesting thumbnail. A crab mashup. It's like, I don't know, crabs from space or something. Um, AI is a funny thing. Misbehaving too. What's going on? Jackie Delario. It's always a beautiful day in Jackie's neighborhood. Josie Jazz Junk. Is that the Crab Street Boys reunion tour? That is pretty funny. The Crab Street Boys. I like that. I went to a Backstreet Boy concert one time. It was the loudest damn thing I've ever heard in my life. And it's not because I went there to see the Backstreet Boys. It was weird. It was like one of those Christmas shows where they have 6 or 7 artists. I think it was called the Jingle Ball, if I'm not mistaken. And there were all these boy groups. And I was actually there to see PM Dawn, believe it or not, because I had done an interview with them. And I saw a couple of tracks. I did a couple songs from there. So, like, what is PM Dawn doing on this bill? And then I forget. They made, I don't know, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC. I forget which one it was. It might have been NSYNC, now that I think of it. The one with Justin Timberlake. It was the loudest damn thing I've ever heard. It was louder and more cacophonous than any concert ever. Like, I could imagine what the Beatles concerts were like, because that's what it felt like. It was fucking insane. Anyway, Night Flight. So I'm going to cross into Leo during the show here in Vegas. There you go. Is that a lucky omen for you, Night Flight? Vegas has been a bit of a ghost town lately. Catherine Rosen. Hello, Catherine. Great to see you. There's Susan. Nutney is talking about John and Polly. We wish them all the best. What is the cover to? Reference to? It's Bye Bye Crabs. Bill got it right. Hi, Kelly B, Melissa Stan, Elsbeth Heron, Lena Winkler, Janine. The thumbnail's hilarious. I must know the app you use, Robert. I must know the app. It's called Recraft. Recraft. It is generally pretty good, although it's not very good at recreating Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know why. Anybody else? It's fine, but Epstein, not so much. Let's see. He's chilling up there. He's chilling up there in Cheeseland. Let's see. George Clinton, yes. He's our star of the day. That's right. Tom Jordan's here. Hello, Tom. Moon Sprout, yes, you can buy yours truly a cup of coffee right there. Thank you. Thank you, T. Jordan. Mr. Tom Jordan. Joan S., the lovely and talented one. Green Eyed Crow. Is that David Bowie you got there in the thumbnail? Awesome. Aladdin Sane. Grand Rising back. Stephanie Hunter. Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you. Miss Nikki's here. So is the law. Lisa Ann White. Liddy Lou. What's going on, Liddy Lou? Moonsprout with the crap reference. Hey, look who's with us this morning. Benito Diaz. What's going on, brother? Good to see your thumbnail. Laura E. Whitsett. Trippy. Here comes the lion. In like a lion, out like a lamb. Or as Green Eyed Crow says, out like a crab and in like a lion. Yes, come on over to Locals. I've been posting more there lately and more to follow. There's Janice Phillips. Mary Mags, love the thumbnail crabs. Cancer season been high tides. Cancer season has been very emotional, hasn't it? Especially towards the end of it. Let's see who else. Maya Rose. Hi, Maya. Good to see you. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, Jingle Ball. I used to go to that in Minnesota where I lived when I lived there. It was one of those things, man. The Jingle Ball was, they used to take that on the road. And I'm telling you, I've not heard any crowd louder than the NSYNC fans. Let's see. What a day. The center just blows that bit each more they take each day one day. I got to tell you, man, I was exhausted yesterday. I don't know how many other people were in the exhaustion lane, but I was for sure. There's our guy Steve. What's going on, Steve? Mary Mags feels like a crab boiling in hot water. This could be worse. It could be a frog. Thank you, Tom. That's right. That's what I do for you, the public. Right there. Jay Schaefer checking in from Tucson. Hi, Jay. Let's see. My offer still stands. Help you drive to New York. I'm fun on road trips. Well, we'll have to maybe explore that idea. We'll maybe have to explore that. Hi, Glemma. Good to see you. Laura E. Did I say hi to Laura E? You get it twice if I didn't. There's our guy, Lewis. Been away. Well, my mom. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Lewis. I'm so sorry. Man, there's so many elders passing now. It's like I'm really sorry to hear that. Well, we wish you and your family all the best, and hope everybody gets what they need. Um, let's see. Diane Evans is here. Hi, Diane. Lorianne, yes, exhausted. Oh my God, I was. There's the link for the bridge. Thanks, Tom. Get your discount now while you can. My Venus is right on my natal moon. It happened. Well, hopefully that would signify a graceful passage. A very graceful passage. Hi, Miguel. Just open my peepers. Sharon Luce is an elder and still here. Well, God bless you, Sharon. I'm not far behind, actually. Yeah, yesterday, the tail of the tape yesterday, and there's Bill Smith. Did I recognize Bill yet? I did. Hi, Bill. Yesterday, I got an actually pretty good night's sleep the night before. For me, fairly early, 7.5 hours. That's a good night's sleep for me. And then I got up and I went into the living room and I threw on something on YouTube and I put my head back and almost 4 hours later I wake up. So, man, I had probably almost 12 hours worth of sleep. And by the time the afternoon rolls around, I still couldn't wake up. It's like I don't think I'm alone here either. I think a number of people are having a hard time with the energy. Something's up, man. Something big is happening. Something big is coming. You've got these animals leaving Yellowstone like they're on menagerie on parade. I mean, first you get the big cats, and then you get the bears, and you get the deer, the elk. I mean, it is you can't not see that and then ask yourself what is going on there. Um, and now they've got these blue holes now that are starting to pop up, and there's so much happening. I would say in the geophysical world, in the cosmic world, geophysical world, and then all the other stressors we have in our lives. Like, there's not a day where there isn't some kind of a relentless assault on our being, whether it's political or philosophical um, and even just here in Kerrville, where there's just this heavy pall that's like over the city, and for good reason because there are lives lost here, right? But it just feels heavy, 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 and tired, and uh, very difficult to get motivated yesterday. In fact, the last week, the motivation level was pretty low, I have to say. Let's see. Anybody else show up here? Mm. Mom usually gets up 2 to 4 times a night. Last night, only once. So, wow. At least somebody's sleeping. You hope to get a birthday song on the third. Well, Julie Sunshine Triple Three. Well, we will endeavor. We'll endeavor to, I don't know, joust with the gods of copyright. It's birthday. Happy birthday. They can't have. I mean, this is ridiculous. Lorianne agreed. Twilight Zone energy. Yeah. Yes. Wait, century. Exhausted. What the fuck is up? I couldn't get going yesterday at all. Amy Gill, my kids left Saturday to vacation. I had so much time, but I felt exhausted, emotional, heavy energy. I think it's that South Node conjunct Mars. I'm gonna throw this up there, Road Atlas. Starting the day with mental clarity, thanks to True Hemp Science. Good for you. Good for you. I think it's a good practice. Scrubbies is here. Hi, Tamara. So drained, exhausted for 3 weeks. I think it's the South Node on Mars. That's my takeaway. We'll take a look at it today. They're getting closer, by the way. Cosmic Detective, what's happening? CD and Miss Nikki's here. All right, I think we're caught up to speed in a record 14 minutes. Here we go. Okay. Why don't we throw our astrology up? Let's do a little weather. Yeah, there it is. You got the right call there. Okay. Let's see if StreamYard will. Oh, it's playing nice now. Look at that. First time. Good. Okay, here we go. There's our sun at 29. Wave your claw goodbye. Cancer season is over. Now we're dealing with Leo. We got Leo and we got the Mercury retrograde and we got the sun coming in, and it is about to oppose Pluto. Here comes the sun right there. We talked about this on Sunday night. And will the sun act as a disinfectant? Is that what it is going to do as Pluto retrograde absolutely just stirs up the muck? Who or what is going to be exposed during this time? It's going to be very interesting. Yeah, we're talking the next couple of days here. I would say throw in today, but there's no juice left in this Cancer sun. So tomorrow it's going to go 0 Leo. at its most potent point, opposing Pluto. And I believe that's our the birthday for Mr. Leo King, if I'm not mistaken. He is 0 degrees Leo, so we'll wish David a happy solar return tomorrow. Yeah, it just I just keep coming back to this, and in some ways, it's also like, well, what are your expectations for a Sun Pluto opposition? Um, well, it certainly feels illuminating, doesn't it? And the Pluto retrograde, again, it just feels like it's going backwards and skimming up this muck, right? With the sort of the uh, just this muck from the underworld, and it being an Aquarius is interesting. Also, right? It almost feels like we're having our first dose of radiation. That's what it feels like. And I don't like to use the term because radiation for cancer probably sucks, right? But it's kind of what it feels like. It feels like that there is something very cancerous about this Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And the sun is coming in here to uh, bring a heavy dose of ultraviolet illumination. So, we can look to things like certainly groups are part of this Aquarian configuration, but it also feels very much like science. Um, and I'm wondering how much this is going to lean into COVID here, because Saturn was what, around 1, 2 degrees in Aquarius when COVID really started to go off. And Pluto is kind of in that same zone. And here comes the sun coming in here to illuminate. I wonder how much insight we're going to get on COVID over the next couple of days. Even with Mercury retrograde going backwards and uh, digging things up. And I remember early on when Trump said, "Well, I'll go out and get some sunlight. It's the best disinfectant," or something like that. And his response early on was very promising, but it certainly changed over time. So keep your eye on COVID world. Uh, I wouldn't necessarily put Fauci into that camp, but COVID world in general, because that's where Saturn was, right around 1, 2 degrees when it really starts to take off. There's Pluto coming back into the same sign. Well, it's in the same sign, but same degrees. Um, I've been reading a lot about Deion Sanders, who does happen to be a Leo, and Dion is exhibiting jab symptoms. He's had clots, and he almost lost his foot about a year or two ago, and instead he had to. I think he lost a couple toes, but he was in danger of losing one of his feet. And for somebody like Deion Sanders, where you made your living using your feet, that's a huge deal. I think he's vaxxed because he has not spent a lot of time with the Colorado football team, and he's been recovering from these recurring illnesses in Texas. And then you throw in base of the amputation, a couple toes and some clots, and it feels very much like a COVID thing. So keep your eye on this Sun Pluto opposition as it relates to COVID. I think that a lot of the reasons why people have been exhausted is this Mars conjunction at the South Node, and it's almost criminal. It's like Mars and Virgo. There's all this very efficient energy just waiting to go somewhere, and on that South Node, it's just draining. It's absolutely draining Mars because that's what the South Node is about. It's about releasing. So maybe we have to release our ideas about being productive and efficient. But as a Virgo, it doesn't really help me um, because I could really use that Mars energy right about now. We have the moon just ingressing. We may be saying goodbye to the sun in Cancer, but we're saying hello to the moon in Cancer. And that's obviously in a balsamic phase, which will become even more balsamic over the next 24 hours. To me, the Cancer moon is one of the more difficult positions for the balsamic moon. I used to be friends with Molly Hall on about.com. She was the astrology person over there. And Molly, and I used to have Molly on my show. She's a good person. And she was a Cancer sun with a balsamic moon in Cancer. And you can just feel at times the intensity of having it. Like she was like an old soul, right? You can just feel it in her. And it's a difficult position because the Cancer moon wants to hold on to things and cling on to things. And in that balsamic position, it's just not easy. So we have the moon coming in here, conjuncting Jupiter, and then squaring Neptune and Saturn. Today is an emotional day. This is a very emotional day. Mm. Yeah, I feel like today's one of those days where people, this is what we're talking about. It's right here. Just so you want the visual. People who tend to be sensitive are going to be oversensitive. And even people who aren't sensitive are going to be, at least not outwardly sensitive. They're going to be a lot more sensitive than normal today. Um, I would not be surprised if over the course of your day you encounter somebody who winds up in tears. I could easily see that. Maybe it's you, but you get that moon square to Neptune and Jupiter square to them. So the one thing I would say here about this moon Neptune square is even though things can be emotional, try not to fall for a sob story. Do not lend anybody any money under any circumstances during this transit. You'll never see it again. If you're going to do it, just know you'll never see it again because that Moon Neptune square is emotional rescue, and somebody may want you to jump in. And we even have Mars coming in there, right, with a wide square to the moon, certainly a square to Venus, and that Mars Venus square is quarrelsome. Mars has moved into the third decan, which is Taurus, stubborn, digs its heels in. And Venus has moved into the third decan itself, which is Aquarius, fixed. This is, I think, if you're really going to have to work on communication today in order to get through this. Just this sense that there's an edge, right? There's an edge in the world. That's what this feels like. It's just edgy energy. Now, Mercury, again, retrograde, does have a sextile with Venus. So that can be helpful, right? Like with retrograde, remember who you're talking with. Sometimes we lose sight that the person that we're talking with is just a sounding board, and they're more than a sounding board. So try to keep that in mind. And even if you're somebody who is on the other side of the share, right? Like keep that in mind. But I do like the sextile, and I like I even don't mind the retrograde here. Um, there's a kind of a wistfulness, I think, with this Mercury retrograde in Leo. And I would, I would suggest calling up somebody that you haven't talked to in a long time. Maybe even somebody you grew up with. And it might be good and healing to reminisce and share some memories, especially with this balsamic moon in Cancer square. It's really emotional, really, really emotional. One of the things that I've been experiencing lately is so Ozzy Osbourne did his last concert, right? That's it, he's done. And all these other musicians and bands who've been part of the story of rock and roll for a very long time, um, they're on their way out, right? And I just thought about it, the other day, and like, at a certain point, there's going to be nobody left. It'll be like Maroon Five is going to be what we remember about a rock and roll band because they'll still be playing, or Coldplay, right? And I'm like, it was just a very uh, Mercury retrograde kind of realization, and it's like a time is passing. It is it's not just passing; it's past. And the people who are still part of that time, to some extent, are still around. And you got Roger Waters sort of doing battle against the English government because of him speaking out against the Palestinians, or actually the Israelis for the Palestinians. I've seen some pictures of Roger Daltrey. He looks like he's still in pretty good shape, but Father Time is undefeated. And yeah, it was just one of those wistful sort of realizations. Like, man, these people are, in 10 years, most of them will be absolutely gone, and we'll be left with Maroon Five. Think about that. Uh, the moon is in conjunct with Pluto today as well, and that's interesting. Really interesting. You know what? If you are into genealogy, like if you're working on genealogy stuff, today would be a good day with that Moon Pluto in conjunct. You might find some missing pieces of your past through this Moon Pluto in conjunct. I know some of you are into genealogy and might even be working on something right now. Chiron's at 27 Aries, and it's right in that square with the sun. Has been for the last couple days. I think again that's another indicator of vitality or lack thereof. It's almost like Chiron is just sapping the sun in some ways. And God, this has been a long Chiron in Aries, hasn't it? And for all you Chiron and Taurus people, you get your Chiron return coming up here. I believe it starts next year, if I'm not mistaken, like late next year, because Chiron's doing this back and forth, with, what it normally does. We have the Jupiter Neptune square. I just think that's adding to a lot of emotion. I keep coming back to this feeling of things that are lost, things that we'll never see again. There's kind of a lament in the air today, and I think we'll continue with that lament energy as the moon moves through Cancer, because the Cancer is a sign that's very nostalgic, and it's looking backwards. And the transit through Jupiter will make it even more emotional and more nostalgic, and then we even have that Moon Saturn square right now. Ooh, that is this. It's sort of like the dam wants to burst. The dam wants to burst here, and the Moon Saturn square is sort of like the wall. It's the wall of the dam. And so when when the moon gets up to about 9 degrees, so we're talking about tonight, I think there's a high degree of emotionality. It's already there, but it moves past that square with Saturn, which tends to be depressive in general. But what's underneath the depression? Loss, uh, grief. So, yeah, this is an interesting lunar phase for sure. We do have Uranus, the Sun Uranus sextile. Well, that should be a bit more lively. And if we get this new moon in Leo, well, when we get to the new moon in Leo, that's a good time to get a haircut, by the way. New moon in Leo, it's one of the best times to get a haircut. So if you want to get your hair cut, you want to get a restyle or a reset, whatever you want to do, just wait about 3 days. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah. I think that's about it in terms of the weather. We we don't have a ton of Earth right now. The only Earth we have is this Mars conjunction with the South Node. You can see it down here. That's it. That's something that's grounding us, and it's very tenuous. And in a lot of ways, it's taking almost all of our energy just to be here and to deal with. Like, the noise is just constant now, and and the volume is getting louder. I mean, thank God we had some of that Elmo stuff. I think I scared off Steven, by the way, by playing the Elmo stuff. That's my sense. Um, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny as hell. Anyway, hang in there. Hang in there. We got a stormy period here with this balsamic moon in Cancer, and it's really starting off today where we're just dragging. We're dragging with that square to Saturn. It's depressive. It's heavy, right? And once the moon hits Jupiter, boy, that's when that's when the that's when the heavens uh, cry when this moon Jupiter conjunction happens, and we have this something here. This is about loss and the lamentation of loss. And I also feel like this in conjunct with Pluto does have a lot to do with, like, even our mortality. Pluto in Aquarius just doesn't give a shit. It doesn't give a shit. It's like, okay, if you're not up to being the best human you can be, well, we got a whole host of cyborgs and robots that are ready to take your place. And if they're not ready yet, we got a bunch of H-1B people that are ready to take your place as well. So there's some of this too with this moon in Cancer. There's this realization that the synthetic world, the artificial world, the robotic world, whether you are directly in relationship with it or not, it's like the animals in Yellowstone. We're not that far away from them in terms of how we process information and energy. It's like we can feel things just like they can feel things. And yeah, yeah. So hang in there. I think the next couple days are going to be pretty emotional. And the feeling I keep getting here is the lamentation of loss, the way things used to be and will be no more. Um, and maybe in some ways it might be better. We'll see. We'll see with this new moon in Leo, which will also oppose Pluto as well. It's like the insertion of a new system in some ways. All right, let's get into our True Hemp Science star of the day. None other than George Clinton, Mr. P Funk himself. We want the funk. Gotta have that funk. Oh, we want the funk. Na 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 na. Yeah, 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 yeah. Nah, gonna burn this mother out. So, George Clinton, the True Hemp Science star of the day, is brought to you by True Hemp Science, your one stop shop for all things CBD. It's right there. As people have noted, Chris, our guy, is an alchemist and he does things with CBD that very few people do. So if you go over there, spend $100 or more, type in 15MINS, you'll help the show and you'll get a goodie bag with some other cool stuff with your order. Now, $150 more gets you free shipping, and there's always a 30-day money back guarantee. So True Hemp Science is your one-stop shop for all things CBD. All right, let's see. I spaced those out a little too far, didn't I? When I was living in San Jose, California as a kid, we had these neighbors across the street, the Hairstons, and I'd go over there and hang out. Their son, Dave Jr., had a AFX racetrack. So we'd race AFX cars. And old man Dave and his buddy Terry, they'd be hanging out in the living room watching football on Sundays, drinking the old English 800, I shit you not, and throwing on a little bit of Parliament. And it was my first exposure to Parliament. However, prior to that, I had heard Maggot Brain by Funkadelic on the local college radio station. It just come out. I'm like, what the hell is this? This is kind of amazing. So we have Funkadelic, we have Parliament, P Funk. These are all variations on George Clinton's world. And he has a pretty interesting chart. First of all, there's nothing really grounding him. Right? The only thing he has below the horizon is Mars in Aries, and everything else is up here. Which I think is a pretty good metaphor for it's a pretty good metaphor for Clinton and his kind of mothership mentality, right? Like it's all up here. It's all up here. None of it is very grounded, with the exception of Mars. Now, let's talk about his sun. So he's a sun at 29 Cancer, and he's got a Sun Pluto conjunction. Well, that's a really powerful conjunction. And to me, the Pluto part is the theatricality, right? And he's always had, big hair, strange hair, braided hair. He's always had the theatricality part, and very intense. Now, the one thing I will say about George, uh, and it's not just me, it's people who have played with him. George doesn't pay very well. And in fact, there have been accusations of people ripping him off, him ripping people off, and just not being super generous. And I can see this, right, with that Sun Pluto conjunction. He's definitely intense. He's definitely got that Leo performer thing going on. And he has a Chiron Pluto conjunction. I kind of see this as being related to his childhood and poverty. And maybe it plays into the fact that as a 29-degree Cancer, he's not going to be the most, uh, I don't know, Cancers, let's just say Cancers watch their bottom line. Now, what's also interesting is that he's got a 10th house sun, but he has a 12th house true node, right? A 12th house true node, and it's in Virgo, and it's conjunct Neptune. So he has Neptune in Virgo. Look at that, right? Neptune in Virgo, but Neptune in the 12th house. So he's a 12th house person. His part of fortune is there at 0 Libra. So theoretically, he should be behind the scenes and spending time in the studio, whatever, right? Like this is a very private Idaho over here, and yet with the Sun in the 10th house and Pluto conjunct the Sun, he can't really get out of it. He can't really get out of being public. So it's interesting. I think with the true node in Virgo, he's he was probably supposed to live a lifetime free of drugs, but I don't think that happened. Not with that conjunction with Neptune. Now, where does the spacey part of Parliament come from? It's over here. The spacey part of George Clinton's over here, right? Uranus in Taurus, 29, 29. That's almost an exact sextile with the Sun, 29, 29, eighth house. So I think the spacey part of the cosmic part, this is where the cosmic slop is, right here. In Taurus, it's an apt metaphor, right? Uranus, Saturn conjunction, muddy, but also cosmic, the cosmic slop, and sextile in the Sun. So I think that's a really powerful set. And I think this is where Clinton does get his kind of weird sci-fi sort of uh, deeply subconscious attitude and vibe. Um, wow. Wonder what his father was like. Saturn Uranus conjunction. I wonder if he knew who his father was. With that Saturn in the eighth house. He has Jupiter in Gemini, and he's got the sextile with Mars. And when I think of Jupiter and Gemini, I think of, well, you have Parliament, right? And then you have Funkadelic. You have these two groups that are really the brainchild of George Clinton. So you get two of them, right? That's the nature of it. And I think he has a tremendous amount of creative energy. And whatever you might think of his lifestyle, this motherfucker works hard, or he did work hard. I don't know what he's up to these days, but Mars and Aries in the sixth, that's it's a hard working motherfucker right there. Moon Mercury, this is an interesting conjunction. So he has a memory, right? This guy has a memory, and he's also able to articulate his feelings. But don't piss him off. Do not piss George. He may look all spacey and astral and funny and fun, but don't piss this guy off. Especially don't accuse him of being cheap. He'll kick you out of his band. Let's go over to the band part. That's Venus in the 11th house. The 11th house is groups, right? And his groups are very theatrical in Leo, full of costumery and makeup. And I mean, the other thing too that with George Clinton is you get all these different characters that he plays, right? Sir Nose, devoid of funk, and he's got all these strange characters that he's able to dream up. And to me, that feels very like Jupiter and Gemini in the eighth house, like all these different persona, even though it's that sextile with Mars that's happening. But getting back to Venus over here, yeah, he's got a very colorful band of characters that he's put together in these various groups. I think it's hard for him to keep them together, though. And some people have been around George for a long time, and other, they orbit in and out. I don't think he's easy on a band. Not with Venus square Saturn, not with Venus square Uranus. I think that he could be really, really inconsistent. And also, I would say, like, cool on a certain level, because Venus and Leo is cool, but you square that with Saturn, and it's like you thought you were cool, but really what you are is very professional, and so yeah, friendly, friendly, friendly until it's time to get paid or till it's time to, tackle the business side of things. And the Venus Saturn square is like, oh, well, we're having a different conversation here. Right. And it's usually with the eighth house, it's other people's money too. So I've always heard stories about Clinton and him not always being, he's like James Brown. James Brown was like that. James Brown paid his guys, but he didn't make his guys rich. Let's put it that way. Um, is Libra rising? That's interesting, huh? So I think he kind of looks the part with the press, and that he's going to be friendly and cool and kind of peaceful. And he's got Spica conjunct the ascendant. So, like, he's his own art, right? Like, that's how Spica works here. He's his own piece of art, he's his own creation. So, if you have your ascendant conjunct Spica, yeah, you are your own creation. And it's quite a creation right there, if I do say so myself. Uh, and he has Palace and Scorpio in the second house. I mean, I think this is interesting as far as like music, musical trends, where things are going. And he was, if you listen to P Funk, Parliament, they're able to adapt their sound like tremendously. Um, if you listen to Atomic Dog versus WEFUNK, those are very, very different songs. Technology is different. Everything about him is different. So it feels to me like he has a sense when he was kind of in his prime where things were going with Palace here and how to get paid by adapting his style, adapting the sound, uh, seeing where certain trends were going, and not really being trendy, but being aware of them. Like when you listen to Atomic Dog, sort of drum machines, and he kind of knows where things are headed, and he's able to tap into them. So I think it's a very interesting chart, not very grounded. You got Mars down here in the sixth, so what's going to ground it? Working, touring, like 300 days out of the year, or whatever, because Parliament. That's one band that I wish I would have seen sometime in the mid 70s. That would have been a very cool show. With the mothership landing and all the smoke in the stage, and these guys coming out looking like they're, some from some other universe. That would have been a good watch. Really good watch. You get Bootsy Collins playing bass right around then. Like that was a time. That was a time. All right. So there you go. Your True Hemp Science star of the day, Mr. George Clinton, Mr. P Funk himself. Okay. I will be over on 15 minutes, trying to make heads tails of what the heck is happening politically as sides are being chosen, narratives redirected, realities flipped, and Uranus and Gemini in the mix with all of it. Hope to see you there. Um, that's it. Take care of yourselves. Treat each other well. God bless. Love you all. Robert Phoenix signing off for now.